Good evening, YouTube model railroader fans. I'm Ray, and welcome to the Boeville and Newtown's vlog number 4 for 2020. This one here is going to be a little different. Of course, every one of them I do is a little different, but this one here is really going to be a little different because the other night I actually had some stuff running. I had some stuff running this afternoon until something decided to fall off the edge of the layout. I'm finding real fast that, you know, even though the track and all had been used at one point and so on and so forth, and everything ran a year ago, well, not so much now. Okay, I'll admit it, I got ahead of myself. I got way ahead of myself. Only because of the fact that I wanted to see some trains moving on the layout, so I've got to go back now. I've got to take the gauge, and I've got to go through all the track, and I've got to go ahead and make sure all the cars are gauged, and which was another interesting little tidbit too, is the fact that I thought that I had lost some passenger cars. I actually found them. They weren't where I expected them to be, so I found those, but I've got to step back now and stop. Like I said, I got a little bit ahead of myself. I'll admit it. I mean, the locomotives run, that's great. The locomotives are also a lot heavier than some of my passenger equipment, and I think that's part of the problem. Besides the fact that I think some of it might be out of gauge. Now, what's really interesting or really fascinating is the ones in the passenger cars that I had running the other night, they were on the outer loop. They ran fine on the outer loop. I take them to the inner loop, they don't want to run. I have no idea why. I've got a switch over here that I've replaced twice, and they still jump at the switch. So it's either the wheels are out of gauge or the switch is out of gauge, and I'm probably putting more of a, since it's at least two different switches, I'm putting more that it's on the cars themselves. So I've got to go in and I'm going to have to bite the bullet instead of trying to make sure that the track arrangement is right, which I think at the moment it is. I think I'm pretty good in that respect, but I've got things I'm going to have to make sure that everything is right first. And I think I'm going to mention that in this vlog as well, from the video that I did the other night. But you know what, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at that footage. Well, yeah, I realize there's a boxcar on the passenger train. That came from somebody in the group. I'm not going to mention names because I wasn't supposed to. But since I've been having some issues with some of the track, I decided to go ahead and run that car. That particular car is a track cleaning car. It's got a piece of masonite underneath, and of course here comes the Wabash with the Mars light. I still do have some sort of an issue on the outer loop here, and I'm not sure why. I kind of went through everything and looked for any type of a bad joint, but I can't seem to locate it. And it's really not a huge deal per se, because when I actually go to put this all together, each one of the joining sections will have its own feeder. Since I am using sectional track in a lot of places, I figured that was probably the better way to go. So I'll just drop feeder lines down, and we'll go from there. As you can see, I've still got all these locomotives sitting out here, and I found 4 more that I need to go and mess with that were actually in another box that I wasn't aware of. And it sounds like I've got a derail. And I do. Figures. Only when somebody's watching, right? Well, let's hope that this thing stays put for 2 minutes. I just knocked the hill over. Alright, so I'm going to grab the camera here a minute. Oops, sorry for shaking. I just picked it up with the other hand. I'm going to explain this hill here too in a minute. Once I fix this issue, I'm going to kind of set this up on the hidden trackage side. I must say that after about 30 or 40 laps, this is the first derailment that I've had. And like I said, it figures as soon as I go to do a video, it decides it wants to act up, but that's normal. I gotta go down here and fix the hill again. As I haven't glued this particular, well, I still am not sure what I'm doing with this particular section. You know what, I'm just going to take it out of here for the moment. I know where it goes before it causes me more issues. And of course I'm probably kicking the stick here, so I'm sorry. Let's see if we can get this trainer rolling again. Anyway, while the trains are coming back in this direction, I did some work here on the hill tonight. If you notice, the farm is now gone. I shaved off that piece so that I met up with the corner. And I actually, the reason why all this stuff's on top is I actually glued that all together tonight. Now, obviously, it still needs to be completely shaped. But I really couldn't do that until I actually got the thing glued together. I really wish I'd stopped kicking this thing. It'd be so nice if I'd stopped kicking it. Anyway, I've still got to do something across the front here. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to fill that in yet. I will get there eventually. But that's the least of my issues at the moment. I did do some work over here. As you can tell, I've got my log loader and my coaling tipple, or my coal tower, sitting out here. I think I've pretty much got this switch back the way I want it. Now I just have to figure out how the heck I'm going to brace it, because obviously it's not going to be sitting there with bridge piers underneath of it. So I'm going to be pulling out some foam at some point and putting that up underneath of there, and we'll go from there. The other thing is the yard up front, just like the yard at Boeville, if you want to call it a yard. This yard, that is, not Boeville yard, but this yard. As you can see, I've got a couple cars sitting there too, just to see how things were going to work out. But I think I've finally, like I said, got this area pretty much nailed down now. And I've got my two water wheels sitting out front here, and one of the reason why those signs and stuff are sitting there is I got another present from one of my wife's friends. As they were cleaning out their house, they found some stuff, so I went through the box the other night and got rid of the trash and basically kept what I wanted, and that's where one of those locomotives that came from that's sitting over here that still needs to be tested. But overall, so far, I'm rather pleased with where I'm at. I mean, like I said before, I'm still got a long way to go. And it's funny that Big Bill has got this new series talking about bigger isn't necessarily better. Well, I can understand that. I mean, this so far has been a major undertaking. I mean, it's bewildering to me, of course, how fast I've gotten to where I'm at. Like I've said, I've still got a long way to go. But, you know, the journey is half the battle. And just to have trains running now at the end of January of 2020, considering the fact that I only started this thing like 6-8 months ago, and of course now I've lost half the train. You know what? It never fails. As soon as you have somebody watching, that's when all heck breaks loose. So we're going to go ahead and stop the trains. And I think I'm going to try and swing this thing around to where you all can see me. So let's try this. Let's see how bad this goes. Oh, there I am. Oh, you don't need to be that close. So anyway, no, I mean, I get it. I mean, the journey is half the battle. There's no question. And I mean, as I've stated a couple times already, this thing is far from done. I don't know when it'll get done. But I mean, I knew that this thing was going to be an undertaking. I knew it was going to be different. I'm taking a completely different approach than what I've done in the past. And if you all have seen the vlogs from 2015, 16, 17, 18, 2019 until I tore it down, I wanted to take the next step. Is this perfect? For me it is, so far. I mean, it's what I wanted. I wanted a point-to-point plus continuous run, and as you can see, as we were talking here for the last 8 minutes, 6-8 minutes, I mean, I can just sit here and watch trains run. Yeah, it takes them a bit to get from around the layout, but that's fine. I mean, I can come down here, flip a switch, done. Which will be one of the things that we'll be discussing in the future episodes, but, you know, this is cool to me. I mean, this going in the direction that this thing is headed, and like I said, it's a major undertaking, and for anybody who's just starting out, you know, and I've been in and out of the hobby now for about 40 years, and doing something like this is not something that you do right off the bat. Don't do it. Start out with a 4x8, a 4x6, a 4x4. It doesn't matter, depending on what gauge you're in. You know, I actually at one point in time had an N gauge layout that I used as my test bed. It was literally on a bed to try different things. And that kind of led in the direction that I'm in now. You know, I learned a lot from that little, I think it was like a 3x6 or a 3x7. I mean, I learned an awful lot from that little one line railroad. I mean, that was cool. I mean, that was neat to mess around with that, doing all the little switching and things of that nature. Yeah, it was a small layout, which was perfect. You know, everything I'd had up to that point, and even the old Boeville in Newtown, the old 13x11, was a play toy. You know, I'll admit it, it was a play toy. It wasn't a model railroad, it was a play toy. This is the next step. So once you go ahead and you cut your teeth on something small, something that you can manage, think about what you want to do next. Try things on that little layout, the little 4x6 or 5x7 or whatever you're messing around with. Try things. Mess around with it. Learn. This community these days, I didn't have this when I was doing it, you know, 15, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. This community of ours, this is great. You got a question? Ask. You need help? Ask. Plenty of people out there will give you opinions, give you ideas, and the nice thing about it is nobody's going to sit here and tell you this is the way you need to do it. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you tried this? That's what we're all about. I'm going to go ahead and this video isn't done yet, but for right now it is. But, you know, welcome to the new Boeville, Newtown, folks. We'll be back. Okay, one other thing. As you've seen exactly what all went on the other night. This is now one piece. I can actually show you what I was talking about. This is now one piece. Now this was kind of fascinating because after I glued it together the other night, I put it back on the layout. Now thinking about the fact that I probably should have put some newspaper or something underneath of it because it glued itself to layout. That was fun getting it back off. But I did. I got it back off of there, so that's a good thing. Still working over here on the switchback, obviously. Was messing around with some things, and you can see that I've got some cars sitting there. I changed the configuration of the staging yard for it a little bit. So that's one of the things I'm still futzing with a little bit. I haven't really messed with it too much more. This is the switch that I was talking about, that for some reason is giving me hate and discontentment, that I've swapped out twice, that the cars don't seem to want to roll over. Not sure what the deal is there. I did some work over here today, and one of the things that I'm going to pose on here right now, you see this plastic here? That is for the diesel servicing facility. Now, it looked to me like maybe the tracks aren't supposed to have ties. You're supposed to, I guess, just lay a rail across it. But one of the other things I've noticed, though, is even if I take the ties off, this is fairly tall compared to the rest of the track. So what I'm wondering is should I cut the homosote all the way down and then put this thing in there and then try to raise it back up to where it's just even with the homosote again and just have the tracks run across it? Or I'm not sure what else to do with it. I mean, I'm trying to cut it down thin enough to where that piece of plastic will just sit in there would be a real pain in the rear. I'm thinking it's almost going to be better to cut it all the way down and then just kind of build it back up to where it fits. But that's something else I gotta fool with. And I've got a few other things I'm still gonna have to do as well. I mean, I said I was gonna get a hold of a Midwest model railroader or Midwest model railroad for the switches and all, but I forgot that there's a train show coming up next weekend, so I think I'm going to take a look out there first, and if I can't find it local, then I'm going to go ahead and go with them. But you know what, I'm going to flip the camera back around here for a minute, so give me a second. Oh, and by the way, paging Georgia Sunbelt, Georgia Sunbelt, I left you a message on your vlog or your video number 19, because I knew you were looking for me. I replied back and said that I gave you my email address there. So Georgia Sunbelt, Tony, take a look at your video. Take a look at your video, buddy. Other than that, you know what? It's awfully dark over here. Let me see if I can put this into some better light. Oop. Here we go again. Ray's kicking the tripod. Of course, that's what happens when you've only got one hand. Oop. I'm trying to level it back out. Anyway, speaking of other things, yeah, the table is now filled with stuff. That's all the stuff that either has to be re-inventoried or repaired so far. Anyway, you all know the deal. Wait for the highball. Green tracks ahead. Be safe. God bless. We'll catch y'all next time. See ya. Stop.